Welcome back everybody, I've made some changes to my Vauban Prime build, so I'm going to update you on them now. Behold, pretty simple build we got here. 4 basic parts. We have corrosive projection and coaction drift. This makes it so you only need 3 people with corrosive projection, including you, to completely remove enemy armor. Super good. Prime Flow and quick thinking for some survivability. Vauban likes to spam, so having extra energy capacity is great too. Repelling Bastille and overextended. Overextended reduces the number of enemies that will fill your Bastille, which means repelling Bastille becomes a wall sooner, and that 100% chance is not affected by power strength, so it always repels enemies. This is good for holding down spawn points for enemies and completely repelling melee enemies. And then at the bottom we have a bunch of power duration, tons of power duration for all your Bastilles, vortexes, and such. And then fleeting expertise so we can spam. As you can see, our abilities are rather cheap. You can throw a concuss for 20 energy, a 30-second Bastille for 30 energy, and a 23-second vortex for 40 energy. Very nice. But the weapons is where it gets really interesting, because Vauban Prime is a Warframe that can make enemies be positioned in quite a few ways. So, I've chosen the Synoid Simulor as a weapon to clear enemies out of your Bastilles. They're often spread out in that situation, so it's a good weapon for that. It has a very large AoE radius. There you are, the build for this is pretty simple. It's just damage. It's worth noting though that some people have pointed out that if you build this weapon for crit, it actually does pretty well, despite the fact that it doesn't look like it would. I did the math out and it doesn't change your damage a significant amount, so I've decided to use just flat damage for a little more consistency, but crit damage is just fine too if you prefer. Wildfire is not necessary, I just like to reload a little less often with this weapon because it's so spammy. So fantastic, now perhaps the more interesting one is the Atomos. This weapon fires a beam of plasma and it will chain to nearby enemies when it hits them. Chaining mechanism is affected by Ruinous Extension, that increases the range, and it's also affected by Seeker. If you punch through enemies, then more chains will spread off of each additional enemy that you punch through. So if you can group enemies together, say with a vortex, then enemies behind the first enemy you shoot will take exponentially more damage. As more and more instances of chaining occur, the further back your plasma beam propagates. So Seeker and Ruinous Extension to a lesser extent are important here. Besides that, just grab some damage on it. Very nice weapon. At last we have the Redeemer. So I figured that you would like an actual gun for this loadout. I often say that, there's like weird weapons and then I'm like, here's a gun. But for this loadout, our weapons are our primary and our secondary, so we have to use the melee gun. The Redeemer is not particularly good on Vauban. It's really good on frames with stealth multipliers or finisher multipliers and stuff, because the Redeemer's shotgun blast benefits from that. Vauban doesn't have that stuff, but it's just a gun, that's why I'm using it. Another really good choice would be Glaive Prime, if you got Glaive Prime. Just something ranged so that if there's like a sensor bar or something, you don't have to like Atomos it or try to Synoid Simulor, you know, you can just take out something and shoot it. Here's my Redeemer build, but again, it's very simple. Not really a weapon you would normally fight with on Vauban, but you can, and it's incredibly fun. Worth noting that Bullet Dance takes a crap on High Noon. You should sell your High Noon, Bullet Dance is much better. It's also extremely cool looking. And also worth noting that your energy channel will make your melee weapon glow once you use lots of energy, and that indicates that you will get bonus damage on melee attacks. The reason this is good on the Redeemer is because each shotgun pellet gets that bonus damage, making it do dramatically more damage, not just 200, more like 2000. And that's what that effect looks like. And that's pretty much it, folks. It's not too complicated, but it's a very reliable build, and it's very good to couple with a Frost or something. You can use it to really heavily reinforce a defense point, or lock down a whole map for a sortie defense point, so the operative can just wander around and it's no big deal, because nothing can move. So thanks very much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time. Leave me any comments or questions that you have in the description of the video, and I'll be right with you as soon as possible.